domain. I don't think anybody's challenging your authority on that one. That's unassailable at this point.
Until I screw up enough.
So we're live? We're on the record now?
Looks like we're live.
Okay.
Hello, everyone in the world. Welcome to my second quarantine office hours, even though we're not quarantined. I guess it's social distancing office hours, but I'm Charlie Plain, and I'm joined today, at least for a little bit, by Brian Sykes, goes by Miss on the Fords.
Hello, world.
So I'm going to post the link here on the website and follow up the YouTube chat and see if anybody wants to join us. You're welcome to. The information to join the call is on the thread on the One Boards. Just go to the thread that says office hours. Go to the end and go up a post or two, and there's Zoom instructions with the password and everything you need. You can join the call, or you can just watch on stream. So we're basically, my thought was, barring any guests that wanted to talk about specific things, is I was just kind of going to go thumb through the whole neutral zone. We're all going to see it in about 6 hours anyway, and tell some design stories and just chat about the new expansion. So.
Okay. Would it be okay if I dropped any shameless plugs here on the front end, or do you want me to do that later?
Go ahead, plug away. You've got a tournament starting tomorrow, don't you? So.
I do. So we have the online regional debuting tomorrow morning. I'm posting pairings first thing. We currently have 16 registered players, including myself. Would love to get that up to 20. I told everybody in my promo that if we got all the way up to 20, I would shake down the CC for some special prizes. I have no idea what that would even look like, but as it is, with 16 registered, I said I'd buy a couple release kits or prize kits to go with the regional kit that I've already ordered. So everybody gets prizes, all shipping, all distribution. That's all on me. I'll be happy. I'm happy to pick up the tab because I'm happy to see the kind of numbers that we're getting. So 16 is a great number. If we go to 17, if there's anybody out there who wants to join last minute, I will happily step aside because I still don't have a deck idea. So I'm not sure if that's an incentive for people to join or a disincentive for people to join because, it could be watch Brian get his butt kicked for 4 rounds if I can't think of any good decks to play. But that's okay. In addition to that, we also have a couple other tournaments. For those of you who may not be aware, I've been running the Return to Talos 4 series since January. It's been, I think, fairly successful so far. We had we led off with the debut of the 1E Pure format in January. That was a fun tournament. You had to keep your deck to exactly 60 cards, so there was some real deck building skill involved in making that work. I think we ended up with 6 for that tournament, and Matthew P., I think he goes by Flying Hawaiian on the forums. He won that one. And then in February, we had a open OTSD sealed, which is the only way you should play OTSD sealed. That was we started out with 6 players, but then we had some drops and then some technical difficulties and some tournament director screw-ups that are totally on me. But we still ended up with 3 players making it all the way through, and congrats to John Carter for winning that one. And then our March tournament was the what I call the Golden Age 1999 edition. That's the one that just wrapped up this past week. We had 6 players for that one. It was Premier through Rules of Acquisition, which was a great time for the game. And I had 3 really fun games. I was fortunate to go 3-0 and win that one, but I think everybody had a good time. And we had such a good time that after April, we are going back by popular demand. We are doing a second Return to Farpoint 1999 Golden Age tournament in May. So that kicks off, I think, May 1st, 2nd, with that first Friday in May, whatever day that is. We got 3 people currently registered, so if you missed out on the first time or if you played and you want to go again, you will get your chance. I'm thinking of a couple deck ideas I might use for that one, and we'll go from there. And then we also have a D Space 9 sealed coming up in May. That was the originally scheduled tournament there. So it's going to be D Space 9 starter, a couple packs of D Space 9, and a couple packs of Dominion. Just really living up the D Space 9, peak D Space 9 era. So lots of good times. And then we have some further events down the line, but that's what's coming up in the immediate term on the 1E side from an online play perspective. So if any of that sounds good to anybody out there, I highly encourage you to pre-register, and good times will be had by all. So Charlie, thank you for letting me drop that shameless plug in there.
Problem. It looks like we had Alan Gould join us. I don't know if he wants to talk or anything, but Alan's here. So.
Well, Brian had a whole thing going, so I figured I'd let it roll.
All right.
I figured in times of all this, social distancing and quarantining and whatever else, the more online play opportunities, the better. So I'm running as much as I can, and I think there's some other folks, running stuff. I know Brian Schaefline, he's got a release tournament coming up next week. I think there's a one-day tournament in England next week that's going to be online, and I heard John Carter's moving his Michigan Regional to an online thing on Saturday the 11th. So lots of opportunities to play online.
Sounds awesome.
Well, how do you guys feel about just talking about the neutral zone for a little bit?
I'm all for it. I'm not sure we can follow the act that Maggie had last week, because I am not singing any Jefferson Airplane. That's not happening. But that was pretty quality last week performance she turned in.
I'm just getting PMs from about unrelated things, and I'm trying to be productive. Answer that real quick, and then try to remember how Zoom does screen sharing.
Green share button at the bottom.
My thought was to just sort of go through the whole set, and because most of the good stuff's been spoiled, but there's a few fun ones that haven't. But yeah, my thought was to just sort of go through card by card and take questions and talk about some stories that I remember from design. I was on this design team, but as has been the case on most of the recent design teams, I just sort of advise. I come in and I sort of, what about this and what about this? And I answer questions from new leads. So not a lot of these cards were made by me, but I touched a lot of them. So I'll do my best to remember stories, but
Can I throw one? Can I throw one to you to start off with, Charlie? Because there is one I had a question about.
Well, I was just going to go in order, but which card did you have a question about?
I forget the name. It's the Gary 7 dilemma.
Well, that's number 4, so we'll get there very quickly. So
okay, I will hold my question until we get there.
All right. So yeah, that's my plan. If anybody in the YouTube chat or on the forums has questions, you can post, and I'll do my best to catch them. And I will try to highlight the cards that haven't been spoiled yet as they come up. But it's a lot of universal background people. So try to spoil the good stuff early. So I think the card on the screen right now is Eminian Disintegration Protocol, which is a favorite of mine. Can't see. I lost this. There it is. Yes, Eminian Disintegration Protocol. So it's a dual dilemma, and it's one of the dilemmas in the set that was sort of specifically designed to work with the Squire's rules, which is the shuffle up your dilemmas and seed them. You don't get to make combos. You just get random chaos. So it has different requirements depending on whether it's hit at a planet or a space mission. This was one of this mechanic was one of the few things I actually did contribute after I just got done saying I didn't do much. I wanted to do more with it because it seemed like we should lean into that mechanic of, chaos dilemmas. So, but we ended up with several dilemmas in here that do stuff with it, and they're fun. I like it because a strategic player, a high-level player, can see this normally based on your space line, to get good effect out of it. But it's pure chaos energy in a Squire pile. So, and it's not bad. It kills a beefy guy every time, and then you have a way out of it. So it's in the same ballpark as Rules of Obedience and the other one.
So if you're to duel, kill both?
I can't. What was that?
If you're at a dual mission, does that trigger both sides of it?
No. So these are actually bad at dual missions. The way they work is you get to choose, the person facing you gets to choose which piece faces it. So if I don't have any engineer on my ship, I can say one engineer on my ship is killed. Now then I won't get past it because it requires 2 engineer, but I can at least minimize the kill and then beam 3 engineer up and continue. So these are not great for dual dilemmas. That was sort of a known bit of complexity when we made them, but dual dilemmas are not super popular cards, and they are not new player friendly in any case. So
they're also highly stealable in most cases. I think the only one that's not is the one that came out last year. This is a 35-point mission. That's the only one I've seen even hit play lately.
Yeah. So this was a fun dilemma and a chaos mechanic because I like the chaos mechanics. So Experience Beige, you, the one who is moving now. This started out as just like the most simple card. It was you can't get past it until you get past another dilemma, and that proved to be like ridiculously broken. It took like 6 weeks of revisions to get this to a place where we could. This is one of those cases where like a simple concept translates into 3 lines of rules text because it's a game and there are rules in the game. But because I've seen some questions, the way this works is the player who is facing a dilemma after this is up gets the choice of whether to nullify it or not. So if Brian and I are playing and Brian hits this and it stops his mission attempt, on my turn, I can attempt a mission and choose not to nullify it. So he still has to go deal with it. And then obviously Brian, as soon as he goes to another mission and attempts it, can choose to nullify it. I'm a fan of this card because it's theoretically, depending on your space line, an absolutely stellar 1-card combo. If you end up with a space line where they have like 1 mission off by itself and then a bunch of your stuff, you can throw this over there and then you're like, if they Cytherians themselves all the way down there and they hit this, they're not getting past it. So, but a very, very, very
I had
fun.
that situation.
Go ahead.
I had that situation come up in my game against James on Monday. We duplicated 2 of our planet missions, and the only other planet I had was like on the far end of the space line, away from everything else. That's why I ended up getting a mod win. And just when you were describing how that card works, if you had put that card there, then it just would have been a complete, more of a crazy bananas game than it already was. I mean, we were playing Golden Age, so it wasn't in play. But yeah, I'm just picturing the impact of that dilemma, and that's solid. I also like that it can pair well with mission debriefing, because you can use like that and Buried Alive and Scows and just get a whole lot of stopping power out of a few dilemmas by themselves, which is helpful sometimes.
Oh yeah, it's one of those cards that it could change the game a little bit.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, Charlie,
like
did you want to touch at all on the whole attempt ends mechanics? Is that sort of a new thing?
Sure. This is new wording from rules that is pretty intuitive, I think. But it basically, a year ago, we probably would have written it: mission or scouting attempt ends. This is basically just shorthand for that. They both use the word attempt, so no matter whether you're playing Borg and using an objective into this or playing non-Borg and attempting, whatever message you use to start this mission, this stops it. And it's in a game like 1E where templates are small and space is precious, getting to take 3 words out is pretty huge. Unfortunately, we're not at the point yet where you can say cannot be attempted. You still have to say cannot be attempted or scouted. Hopefully down the road we'll get to that point. But yeah, it's a nice new language from the rules team that I'm pretty happy to have. Next is M113 Creature. I think this is one of the first spoilers we gave out even before we were doing images. Fun little murderer.
Yeah, I shook you down for this in the POR. That was fun. I enjoyed shaking spoilers out of you.
This is it's a Horta variant. It's dual though, so it's a little definitely easier to cure. It sort of uses the technology that we came up with in the cage for. I don't remember where we came up with the human. Opponent's choice, but pick a human if you can. There was a card we used it on last year, and we used it again here because the story represented the salt sucker not being able to eat Vulcans, I think. Needed red blood, so just a little nod to the story that keeps the game text simple, but references the story so that you get that Trek sense in there without having to write out, the Kelvin show of force type of thing. These particular species are excluded.
I saw it was a throwback to the text that showed up on Draconium Cloud Creature last year in the cage.
Yeah, that was the one. That was the one. Yeah.
I thought that was a nice callback there. A nice good way to tie the two sets together since we're all in the original series, theme. So I like little touches like that.
Yeah. This is a fun card. So. Now I think we get to Brian's. Nope, sorry, one more. I think you're 5. 4, Nelvana Trap. This was one of the most requested conversions. We did Metamorphosis and severed the whole backwards compatibility, but at the time it didn't make it in. And this was in the file for Neutral Zone pretty early. It was always a dilemma. It was never an event. Mostly,
I gotta say, as someone who was always looking to build a 1E deck around the Nelvana Trap before 2E cards went away, I was super sad to see that happen. But seeing this version, just my initial impression is it looks like a lot of fun, and it's good. It requires you basically have to build a deck around it. But I mean, with Romulans, it's easy enough to get that seated at 2 space missions, and then get Disrupted Continuum and swap it in for the 3rd space mission if you have to. And just do all sorts of terrible things to your opponent. So I'm super excited about this card.
This is fun. It largely stayed the same. It didn't used to call out specific subfactions. It was basically you can grab any of your Romulan ships, but everybody was using Scimitar and Prometheus in every deck, and that was pretty obnoxious. So we themed it. I think originally it was just TNG, and then we realized that was unfortunate in a set that was introducing OS Romulans, so it got both. No, the icons are not a mistake. It's probably the #1 comment I've seen on this card. Why is it Romulan OS and then TNG Romulan? That's the way it is. That's consistent with how they've been used. It's just very rare for you to see those next to each other. But it's not wrong.
Yeah, I gotta say, as a proofreader, I really appreciated you putting out the icon order guidance, because proofreading that thing was a challenge, because I wasn't sure which one was forward and which one was backwards. And the icon order of precedence guide, which I'm not sure if that's publicly available or not, but it definitely helped with the proofreading. So it's good that we have that standardization. I mean, even if it looks weird when you put them side by side like that.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, we had a couple proofreading issues, and so James Mossabroten, Orban, who won Make It So for 1E, one of his first projects was like, go look at all of these and figure out the right order for them. And he went and looked at precedent, and we established here is the order that icons go on cards. And since then haven't had as many issues, and it just happens this one is weird. So I don't think it's still in the set, but one of the original combos that was in design was there was a Romulan that downloaded Engage Cloak, special downloaded Engage Cloak. And there was a Romulan that special downloaded a Cloaking Interrupt. There is a Cloaking Interrupt in the set. It is different than what it was at the time. But the combo was your opponent flipped this card up, and then you special downloaded Engage Cloak and special downloaded the card that let you cloak, and you moved your ship that was in play onto it, and then immediately moved it over to here and shot. That was a little good, but that was part of the reason why this card is in the set. And I will say, if you're a big fan of the original Nelvana Trap battle card, that could still be created in 1E. It just wouldn't be this name. So it's a fun card. It's the only non-dual dilemma in the set, but that felt okay because it's very on theme. At least that was our thought. All right, Brian. Nuclear Disarmament is next. This is the Gary 7 card, anti-temporal agent card. Kills all your temporal agents unless you're really good at history, and then to get past, need computer skill and integrity or physics and a cat. We're really any animal, but a cat.
Yeah, so here's my behind the scenes question, because I don't get to see a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. During playtesting of this thing, how many temporal agents were getting blown up on average when they would run into this dilemma? Because obviously temporal agents were really good during peak 22 meta a year or so ago, year and a half ago. So obviously this is a good answer to that, but given that it's dropping off in popularity, are we still seeing a lot of temporal agents running around doing shenanigans, or has that sort of, the requirements are good anyway, so it's definitely usable, but I'm just wondering how impactful that temporal agent piece is actually in practical terms going to be.
It's one of those things where if you're not playing a temporal agent deck, the odds of you having a temporal agent aren't high, so it's probably not going to kill many. You're probably not going to use Agent Jameson unless you're playing temporal shenanigans. I suppose Davies is the most likely incidental casualty. So it never killed a ton, but at the time this card was made and in early playtesting, Temporal Benefactor and those decks were a lot more common than they are now. So it's weaker than it probably was when it started, but like you said, the requirements aren't bad anyway. It'll see play, but it's a good meta answer to temporal shenanigans, which, there are a lot more temporal shenanigans in 1E that might eventually be brought in.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering if there were any playtest reports half my people in play got blown up because I ran into this card and it was no fun and boo hiss. But
not that I recall.
If you're running Temporal Benefactor, you kind of deserve that. So.
Yeah, and if you're really worried about it, you just. What was that, Alan?
It is a pretty niche call. If you get tagged by this, you probably had it coming.
Then again, a lot of temporal agents have anthropology. And if you're really worried about it, if you're heavy in temporal agents, you just want to make sure you're bringing anthro, because it turns them from kills to stops, which is something. But if you're trying to keep one temporal agent safe at your time location to do some shenanigans or to use as a bug out, this is a decent, snipe. It's a decent side effect at that.
Yeah, I actually started looking at my 22 decks and going back and seeing how many plausible benefactors had anthropology. So that way I could bring the anthropology along and the temporal agents could actually protect themselves. But I only dabbled in that. I'm not sure I came up with a good answer.
Well, and even if you're not killing them, that's still going to bork them because if you're playing heavy temporal agents, they're all going to get stopped anyway.
Yeah. And if you're trying to save them in your second crew, that's going to stop your second crew. And, but I really think, it's a decent wall in and of itself. It's not a fantastic wall. It's not, old school Q or anything like that, but it's, 2 computer skill integrity 40 is tough for some affiliations, and not a lot of people play animals. So.
Yeah, I was actually trying to figure out what animals would I plausibly have and what decks would I be able to actually do something with. And the only thing I could think of that would have easy access to it would be 22nd century Klingons with the guy who downloads any Targ. So he brings in his magical medical Targ and, also cures this while he's at it.
Yeah.
I think it was that Antac, and I forget the Targ's name. It's something I can't pronounce. But
Boshar, Bosch.
Yeah, that's the only easy answer, because most animals don't even play for free, so they're not really seeing a lot of use in decks, because everyone goes for, okay, what plays for free? Let's go throw a bunch of those in there, and animals aren't on that list usually.
Yep. Next is Poor Quality Workmanship. This is just a riff on the Squire Chaos mechanic. You got to have some tech-minded people or a particular piece of equipment, depending on whether you're in planet or in space. Cool.
Yeah, I like the fact that there's a dilemma that actually destroys equipment. Like there's not a lot of that out there. And I was thinking that this would be an interesting combo with, I forget the name of this card. It's the one with the exocomps, and you got to like just have an equipment there, or the requirements get really hard, or something like that. I just want to talk.
That doesn't ring a
I don't have any
bell.
cartels in front of me.
So
It was a dilemma from a few sets ago. It's like they had the picture of the 3 exocomps, around the warp core or whatever, and yeah, I'm gonna have to look it up.
Let's see here. It probably says exocomp in lore then, doesn't it? Let's look.
Yeah. MVB is probably yelling at the screen right now watching this because he has an encyclopedic knowledge of all cards, and he's probably ashamed of all of us not having that knowledge.
Oh, I
These
mean,
days.
it's Common Thief, but that's not the one you're thinking of. So.
Exocomp. I think I spelled it wrong. There's not a C there. Sorry. It's not excocomp. Computer is just not as good as it used to be. Come on, there we go. And I deleted the wrong letter. Boy, I'm having issues today. Anyway, anybody is out there knows the name of the dilemma Brian's talking about, scream it at your television. Maybe we'll remember it. Poor quality workmanship. Yeah, I like this because it's, you're stacking people with ridiculous skills don't help you in this one. Like Trip Tucker with his double engineer still only counts as one person for this card, which I think is a neat space to play around in. Is it quality of life? Is that what you're thinking of? Opponent may draw a card for each equipment. To get past requires an equipment, your choice, discarded. Or cybernetics and 2 law, or 4 engineer, or exocomp.
Yeah, you beat him by about 10 seconds. I just got to it. That's the one I was thinking of.
Anyway, poor quality workmanship is kind of fun. Shuttle Crash is the last of the it's not the last one. It's the last one that has the planet and the icon. But I like this one because it's very story mode. You can essentially kill 2 people right off the bat, which is kind of fun. So stops, not kills. But, Picard and Wesley have to deal with this shuttle crash, and then you need to have a pilot and then a different attribute. So like these 3 dilemmas do slightly different things based on whether they're planet or space, and I like that. This was just exploring that space a little bit, and I think it's a mechanic we could come back to in the future. Using the icons and requirements in different ways. So. I think this was inspired by TNG Geordi LaForge, who has different skills based on where he's on the planet or the base. Tricyanite poisoning. I guess there's another one that has planet in space, but this is my favorite of all of these because it's probably the best of these dilemmas to not use in the Squire's rules. I'm looking forward to building a deck that uses weird Ferengi missions and building that interactive space line, and then putting 2 of these at like the weirdest places. So you have to have like 3 greed to get past it. And essentially forces you out of the mission for 2 turns. Doesn't actually stop you from solving it. So if you don't need the points, but you need the completed mission type, or you need an artifact that's under it, you can still do it. Doesn't stop you from doing the mission. It just stops you from scoring points for the mission.
Oh man, did you guys test it without it being an unless? Like if it was a falter?
Yeah, and there was problems with it. It really needed to stop because it was pretty brutal if you didn't have at least that like, oh crap moment of buying out.
Yeah, I'd be like, I just put that as the only dilemma there, and oh, your mission's worth 0 points. Oh, sorry. Oh, you solved it. Good job. Congratulations.
Yeah, that it was brutal that way. You really couldn't do it. So, but it is fun. It is fun in Squire deck, especially if you're still building that interactive space line. But I think this is probably the most strategic of these that a player could seed without randomizing. Look at the space line and really hammer at some people. So, and the last dilemma is White Rabbit. There was a whole cycle of point drain dilemmas in the neutral zone, and one of the playtesters built a deck that reliably forced every deck it ran into 5 missions, like almost without fail. And that was like, okay, that's probably bad. That's too much. That's not adding more turns to the game or more game length in a way that is positive. So we scaled back most of them, and this was our favorite, and this was the one that stuck. But again, I like it. It's doesn't block you from solving the mission. It just forces you to have a choice. It's like, do I want to do this mission for 25 instead of 35? If I only need 25, then absolutely. If I need 35, maybe not. Maybe I go somewhere else.
Yes. So here's another design question I have, because I know you guys hit on this pretty hard last week, but just plausibly speaking, how many other pocket watches do you think could actually show up in the game besides Samuel Clemens pocket watch?
I should have thought of that question. There is at least one more. Doesn't the Krenum guy have one? Somebody else has a pocket watch. There is plausibly at least, we wouldn't have done this. Here's the thing about, you don't make a broken link like this if there's not a out for it. So this was a Dan Hammond original, the Nullified by Any pocket watch. There is another one, and I'm blanking on it.
Okay.
Where it shows up.
You ready for this list?
Oh God, sure. Give me the Memory Alpha list. So.
Okay, so we got this one. Abraham Lincoln has one. Samuel Clemens has one. Soren has one. And Chakotay gives Janeway one in Year of Hell.
I think it was Soren's and Janeway's that we knew about. So there are more that could be made. So.
Yeah, I also think that anytime you have a 19th century character, like you can make another Samuel Clemens that downloads his pocket watch as like, potential out for this dilemma. Because I think since Alice in Wonderland was like a 19th century piece of literature, you'd think that 19th century characters would probably be more favored against it. I'm almost wondering if if there's like a Sherlock Holmes or Watson that you can make that. I'm not sure if Geordie LaForge ever had a pocket watch or not when he was dressed up as Watson, but that was another thought I had.
So the Nullified by Any pocket watch is in the same vein as the robots that say you can only have 500 copies. We call that trinket text because it almost never matters, but it's really fun. This White Rabbit here, it has what we call medium requirements or moderate requirements, where it's not super hard to get by, but physics and archaeology are not the most common of skills. So this will hit somewhat. So it didn't really need a huge out. If anything, I could see in the future making some cards that target dilemmas that go on missions, because there are a lot of those and a lot of them are nasty, as another potential way to deal with this. But the other thing is it doesn't trigger the point drop until it countdown expires. So if you get stopped by this, you've still got time to solve it before you lose the points. So it's I'm late mechanic. This is a fun one. I really like this card. It's pretty good too.
It combos with the other one where you get the matching countdowns of it's not worth points if you solve it now, and if you don't solve it in time, it's worth less.
Mm-hmm. Could be fun. So. All right, let's. I was thinking I could get through all these cards, and that's not going to happen because we're a half an hour in and 9 cards through. So let's see what else there is to talk about. Why? You're not working. Okay. Creatures of Duty. This is fun. We've talked about this one plenty. This was the promo for the set. This is a fun card. So it's a Good way to give the Romulans some help with the need for ladies without pushing a Romulan player into using non-aligns. Obviously, that's an option. It's arguably the better option, but a lot of people out there like to play pure decks, and this is a card. And it's why darn near all the Romulans are officers. Shapeshift fluidity. This is solving the same problem for a different affiliation. The Dominion has more females than OS Romulans, but less than almost every other affiliation that's not in the Delta Quadrant. This is a solution to that one, and then it has the rider of letting changelings ooze around together in the cafe if they want.
So is that option limited to one changeling or each changeling once per turn? I'm just trying to figure out how to parse that.
Sorry. So it's once each turn.
I read that as each changeling, because each changeling in play once each turn may change their gender.
Yes. So Odo can switch to female, but not back to male that same turn. But then you could switch Lost from male to female, and then the changeling the pounder leader to male, or neuter if you really want. Yeah. If you want to have no targets, you can make all your changelings become neuter and then dodge all the love interests. So. Strategic sector. This is there were a lot more region matters cards when the neutral zone went to testing. A lot of them fell by the wayside, but this was the best one. This is really a Maquis card. It doesn't say that anywhere on here. If you're playing, I mean, it says it in the lore, but if you're playing Maquis, you're not running a facility, and then this can give you, 3 or 4 draws out of it. It's also a bananas card in a mirror match because it doesn't count your missions. So if you're playing Bajor missions and I'm playing Bajor missions, I think you can get up to 5 card draws from this. I think there's 10 different Bajor missions. One particular quirk of the region rules is that Bajor region in the Alpha Quadrant and Bajor region in the Mirror Quadrant are the same region.
So max on that would be, 6 cards in neutral zone if you're having one of those days?
I think you could. I think there's 11 neutral zone missions now, and if you used PNZ, you could get to 12. So you could get 6 cards out of this. Not super likely, but it is possible. And the not playing Borg is on here specifically because one of the playtesters broke this wide open with TNG Borg. I don't remember the details, but they basically said just this card was bananas in that deck, and it was too good. So that not playing Borg rider went on here.
Do you remember what region they were using?
Neutral zone, if I recall, for Consume Outpost. Speaking of outposts, here's the Earth Outpost. This is a story mode card to let test for weakness be very, very flavorful. But it has a second order effect, which is this is an actual OS facility. So right now you can't play the Final Frontier in a treaty deck because your treaty, Organian Peace Treaty, only makes your OS people compatible with each other. So the OS Klingons can't report to a Fed outpost or vice versa, except this one, because this is an OS card. So if you want to play a Fed Klingon OS treaty deck with the Final Frontier, you can use this card and they will both play at this facility. Playing in similar...
Get a second outpost out of it if you're just really needing another Fed outpost.
Yeah. So I think we lied a little on the property logo, because I do not believe this is I think this is a made up composite image, or it's sourced from a different episode, but it's very much clearly supposed to be TLS, so that's what we went. Community leader. This is a fun card. Patty and Neil really wanted to come into this set with some off block stuff. That's why there's a higher percentage here. First sets and blocks don't really get that luxury very much. The cage didn't really have anything, but this one could pivot. So we get a couple DS9 cards, a couple Starfleet cards. This is some love for Ferengi out of your Nor deck. And two free sites, so you don't have to bring Quartz Bar and a Holosuite in your 6. You can basically start the game with 8 if you would like. Hardworking, happy androids. This was one of the cards that took a long time to get right, but I'm happy with where it ended. The androids were cut from the cage. Neil, Patty, and Dan took them to run with. Jason Drake had made a really, really, really deep and flavorful android mechanic. But it was, you basically had to have a master class in 1E to play it right. And therefore it wasn't very popular because people were trying to get their heads around it. Like Jason is just at a level so far above everybody else. That mechanic, I hope that we can bring back at some point because it was really fun once you got it. But Patty and they took these androids and reworked them to be this, which is like an android deck, which is fun and it's something the game has kind of been wanting for a while. So go bananas. And one of these, and this card alone has bumped Lore's fingernail up the priority for maybe getting cleaned up a little bit. It's with an errata because it's one of those weird pack cards that just doesn't quite work unless you read the glossary. So I'm probably looking forward to playing androids the most out of this set.
Hey Charlie, you signed up for Brian's release event to give this a try?
No, I'm playing in the regional instead. I don't have really the bandwidth right now to play in 2 at the same time. But hopefully in May or in June I can get into another tournament and bring androids. So if you want to know what I'm going to be playing, it's probably going to be androids. So. All right. Long Live the Empire. Long Live the Empire was made by Patty and Alan French. ADF8 on the boards.
Oh, yeah. Here's another one I have a design question on because this has come up I think it came up on the public boards and it's been discussed on the staff boards too, I think. But how does this card play with the uncontrolled USS Defiant? Like, is it designed to work with that, or is it designed to not work with that? Because there's some questions about whether or not it actually does work with that.
I don't actually know. I had very little to do with this except convincing them to change. So originally when this card was made, it wasn't discard cards. It was put them under your deck. It was once each turn you can put 2 cards from hand under your deck to do the thing. That was way too good. So I was one of the people that helped convince them to change it to discard. But I didn't really work on this card much. I never play tested it, and I don't remember. So I can't answer that question. Hopefully, I think the rules team is on that, trying to figure that out. My personal read is you don't have an uncontrolled ship in play, but I'm not sure that the actual rules line up with that. So hopefully the rules team will make a decision and clarify that. I think it's okay if this card doesn't work with commandeering the Defiant, because you can certainly play a Starfleet deck that goes no hand and doesn't do that, and you can certainly play a mirror Starfleet deck that does try to get the Defiant, and that's not a bad thing. But I can't speak to the intent.
Yeah, I mean, my read and a very quick search on the lovely new glossary I think it would work because it's you, and you means stuff you control, not not stuff you own.
I would generally agree with that interpretation, but I'm not a rules person, so I can't really comment. But
Yeah.
I think it's okay if it doesn't work with that other card. I am not of the opinion that every card in a deck's toolbox needs to work with every other card in that deck's toolbox. I think that leads to blobs and not diversity of deck building. So, but that's just my 2 cents. So sorry I can't answer your question, Brian. The neutral zone. This is a fun card. You can certainly tell with this card that Q-Who spun off from the neutral zone.
Yeah, so I was looking at this card. My question on it was, what's the best non-neutral zone mission to pair with 5 neutral zone missions to make this thing work?
That is a really fun question. Then the answer would be Romulus, except it specifically says you can't use a homeworld. So, I mean, Remus is an option. That's not a bad mission. Eventually, the Riemann Mines will come back and do something fun. It also lets you do process or geo mining on that, which is always valuable.
Yeah, but the downside there is if you have a facility there, you can't do any of that stuff. Like Remus is always good as being next to Romulus because you can put your facilities on Romulus and have your ore processing going on Remus.
Yeah.
If you want to do that, you can't do it with neutral zone. Unless you want to put your facility in the neutral zone, which that leads to other problems. If anybody's actually still packing Wake of the Board.
The exemption was put there to let you do time location mission or a secondary free report location. So an android, one of the android missions, for example, or mercenary raiders, that type of thing. Cards that, have to go at a specific place. That was what this exception was for, was to let you put those in there. Sherman's Peak, so you can play this deck out of
K9, K7,
K7, whatever it is, that type of thing. That's what it was designed for. But you're right; it's going to be very interesting to see what that 6th mission is for a lot of people that use this. If you want to do weird neutral zone stuff, you might need if you want to do a neutral zone deck in a weird color, you need a mission where you can place your outpost. I don't know that there's a neutral zone mission with a Cardi icon on it. So if you wanted to do a Cardi neutral zone deck with Plans of the Obsidian Order, you'd need some place to put your outpost, or not if you want to run Terok Nora. That could be fun. I don't know. That's a great question. I don't think there's a right answer for it. I can just speak to the intent, which, like I said, the intent was to let you have your time location or your secondary report location. Or in case the S hit the fan and we didn't fix the Wake of the Borg, so that you could have a facility that wasn't vulnerable to getting blown up. But it was way too good if you could use Romulus, so that's why the no homeworld restriction. And this is, if nothing else, the last function will be probably pretty popular in Romulan and Klingon OS decks. I'm hoping that most decks.
That card draw is definitely good. That's why I'm trying to figure out what mission I can put with the 5 neutral zone missions, because with 5-year mission currently, hanging out in Banland, it's like I need another card draw somewhere, and it's like cool, I can run neutral zone, but what do I run with it? Make it go.
Baku Insurrection.
That could work.
Yeah.
I was also thinking maybe one of the Outpost 2 missions, so you have your facility built in, and you can more or less likely land right next to the neutral zone. I mean, it would take a really wonky space line situation to have that not be the case.
Maybe a wormhole mission too.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah. Interesting. I'm very curious to see what other people think about that. Poach Maneuvers. So I mentioned this one briefly. This card was originally sort of designed to be an OS Romulan bug out card. Because the feds have Niles Barrett. And at the start, I want to preface, I never agreed with this, but at the start, there were people that was like, well, the solution to the bug out problem is to give everybody equal access to bug out. Over time, we moved away from that. We as an organization moved away from that opinion. And so this stopped being a bug out card. It let you, it was a bug out specifically because there was a guy who special downloaded it. There's still a guy who downloads it, but now it's an order. It's not a special download. But, the original version was similar to this. It just really wasn't working. And so towards the end, this card was on the bubble. This card was like on 2 or 3 of our we should cut it list. It's not working. And I don't remember who had the brainwave, but the idea was there are times in games when you want to uncloak, do something, and then recloak. But the rules don't let you do that. So the idea of what if a card let you do that came up, and that's where this came from. So now, you know, if I'm playing a deck with a cloaking device ship and you're running around trying to blow me up, at the end of my turn I can cloak, hide, then I can uncloak, do a mission, and then play this and recloak, and you still can't get me, which is pretty good.
So yeah, there's another question that came up on this one. How does this interact with like Tachyon Detection Grid or 10 of 19, where you get forced to decloak? Can you play this to recloak? Because I know Tachyon Detection Grid said decloak for remainder of turn. So that's
I don't know I don't know the answer to that one either. Again, that's into the rules minutia that I am not an expert on. Tachyon Detection Grid, because it says you're decloaked this turn, probably prohibits you from using this one. But I think the drone just says force a ship to decloak. At which point I think you could play this to recloak, assuming you hadn't already done that this turn. So,
okay.
And the trinket text on here, the extra text, is new tech that I'm excited to try to use to give a little. This is a neat way, I think, to give affiliation or faction specific flavor to some of these cards. Because really, this card can be used by any deck that can get a cloaking device on their ship. But if you happen to be playing OS Romulans, it gives you extra value, which I'm a big fan of that. And especially because there's a Romulan that lets you get this back out of your deck. You can basically play one copy as long as they don't counter it and just do this every turn. So, pretty fun. I like this card. I like where it ended up. All right. I have had enough of you. We'll see how this one lands. That's all I can say. I mean, this is experimental. It's probably something the game needs.
I like that you're trying new things, Charlie. I like that we're trying to figure out what the answers are to special download craziness, and having a card that, you know, basically computer crashes it is kind of fun. It might not work, but it's at least something different. It's a different take, and I applaud the original thinking, whoever came up with this one.
Yeah, that's sort of where I'm at with this. I'm not a huge fan of it. I'm not a huge fan of Magic Bullet cards because they tend just not to get played. We'll see how this one gets played, especially right now with lots of OS running around and even Battleboard do some special downloads.
That was exactly what I was about to say. Is there is so much special downloading going on right now, and I'm still surprised at the amount of containment field I'm not seeing run. But
yeah,
maybe this will maybe toss a couple of these in your deck next to your Quins or whatever, and you know they got to download the answer to your dilemma, and you shut it down for that turn. Let the dilemma hit them, and you know, yeah, they get it around the next turn, but at least you can get a shot in before they get around it. So anything that like can slow the game down a little bit, make mission attempts a little bit harder to get through, I think is good. It'll add a turn or two to the game.
Yeah, especially since I'm of the opinion that, you know, we need more turns, not more time. And this adds more turns without adding more time. So we'll see how it lands. Need to find something that you guys haven't seen because we're almost at our hour and I haven't spoiled a card yet. And that's unfortunate. We're 22. I think that's just a mission. It might have been on Facebook. You guys might have seen almost everything here. 22 is evade sensors. It's a nice neutral zone mission. Red Romulan non-aligned, so just a fun mission. That's not on the site yet, but I'm pretty sure it's on Facebook. Leadership ×2, nav, computer stellar cartography, 35 points. Neutral zone region, Comet Icarus 4. Hide near comet discovered in 23rd century. The comet that the Eros' ship hid on. Hide from the Enterprise. This provide purpose is like one of the most beautiful cards ever made. This bright yellow planet with rings. So cool.
It's definitely a different color scheme. I like it.
Yeah.
Hey, Charlie, I know you skipped into 22, but can we go back to Breach Detection Grid and talk about that one for a second? That's a fun card.
Sure. Breach Detection Grid. Space mission, span 5. Klingon, Cardassian. Oh, there is a Cardi one. Okay. Klingon, Cardi, Dominion, Ferengi. 35 points. Cloaking device or any intelligence or any founder plus computer skill, navigation, security.
Is that our
Neutral zone
first
region.
mission that requires a cloaking device?
I think so. Which I like. It's a cool mechanic. And we all know Romulans can get into missions that don't have Romulan icons on it. So.
Well, no, I'm liking the fact that there is a potential reason for a non-Romulan or Federation affiliation to go play around in the neutral zone, because it's a 5-span mission. So if I'm suspecting Federation or Romulan, one of two things: I could build a deck with this mission in mind and have a mission to go do. So, like if I think Patrol Neutral Zone is going to make a comeback, I can go hang out in the neutral zone and also be working on my own mission while I'm there. Or just because it's a 5-span, I can drop it in the middle of your perfect little neutral zone space line and scramble you up a little bit, which is a good answer to the regional mission problem. And I use problem in air quotes there, but it's I think this is a nice needed addition, since we're given all the neutral zone. There's a lot of Romulan and Fed stuff going on, but to have this oblique in for the other affiliations, I think is definitely a good add. So I think this card has a lot of potential, especially because it's a fairly easy mission for 35 points if you have the right deck for it.
Yeah. I don't know who did it, so I can't give them a particular shout out, but the art team had to make this image. This is not from anything. The art note was like, can you make a border grid? And they came up with this, and it's pretty freaking cool. So.
That's very cool.
Yeah, I'm wondering if our team is fans of The Last Starfighter, because it kind of reminds me of the detection grid in The Last Starfighter, which is a great, sci-fi movies from the 80s. It's total cheeseball, but it's amazing.
Yep. So I wanted to show off a card you hadn't seen before. This is 28V. It's a Jem'Hadar. His name is Shah Razad.
Ooh.
Patty's not here to if you do not like this name, please address your complaints to Patty Kazon Pat on the forums. Anyway, this is Dominion Universal, Shah Razad, DS9 property logo. He has engineer classification. He has a staff star, an AU icon, a Ketracel white icon, and the Gamma quadrant icon. He has science and navigation. He's a 778, and his lore says, representative of virtual players in the Vorta scenario designed by Borath. Jem'Hadar III trained in the fields of engineering and wormhole theory. And that is not a coincidence, because this guy will let you nav schematic by himself. And he's a support personnel, so you can have him out very early. And he is a much needed
he also
AU
let you nav
icon.
schematic into the mirror universe? I thought he had all the magic skills to get it anywhere through the wormhole.
I think he does. Yeah.
Because you need engineer and science to go to mirror universe, and you need science and nav to use the schematic. So if you have engineer, nav, and science on one person, that's the money shot.
Yep. And he's a much needed AU icon for an affiliation that doesn't have a lot of them. Now, Quantum...
Only if QI comes back.
Quantum Incursions has been banned for a while, but he's definitely going to help that affiliation when they come back. If it comes back unedited, which isn't guaranteed. Shahrazad, Dominion guy. Lieutenant Styles, because Star Trek needs more racists. No, it doesn't. I don't think she's been shown yet. Andrea, the android. Computer skill biophysics, if with Dr. Roger Corby, both are attributes all +1. That's a very OS ability. I think what Mr. Spock says that right now. And then Barbara series is the other mud droid. There are 3 androids that have limited to 500 copies in play. First person to get 1,500 androids into play gets, I will bake you cookies.
Hopefully
Well,
there's
what?
an achievement for that.
Yeah, I think the only realistic way to do that is reversing
Persistence?
persistence, right? Where you reverse it and then everybody in the discard pile comes into play. Is it reversed anti-time anomaly? Is that how you do that? I think that's what it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
And the
Which-
swap
that-
your deck and discard guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I was thinking when I saw this was we need some translation of the 2E card, the new Resistance, where you like play an android and reveal the top card of your deck, and if it's an android, you get to play it, and then you reveal that, and it recurs until you break the chain. It's probably broken in 1E, so I'm not saying to actually do it, but that would be a fun thing to combine conceptually with 1,500, Barbara and Alice and Stella Mud series androids.
Yeah. So one of the things I realized when we put this on here is there's 3 types of people who are there are 3 ways to react to this trinket text, this restriction. That's cool, I hate it, and gauntlet accepted, challenge accepted. And I have seen all 3 of those reactions, so I'm intrigued to see how it goes. Please don't bring 1,500 androids to a physical tournament. Nobody has time for that. Play it online.
Oh, you don't play 1,500. You play 1,503 so that you can have that one's like, oh, I can't play this Barbara because I already have 500.
Yes. So blame the TOS writers for putting numbers on all of them if you don't like this joke. So. Let's find one more. Dr. Brown. This has Patty's favorite lore of the set in it. Android recreation of Dr. Roger Corby's assistant survived underground on XO3. Often talks about his great Scottish ancestry. Computer skill, physics, anthropology. Your Dr. Roger Corby here gains science. So I think there's 2 androids with anthro, so you can drop happy androids and a duck blind on your planet and get these 2 with Preserver Obelisk, and you're good to go. So, but then you don't get Norman, and Norman's your cyber. So, interesting. Kirk android. Have we shown him? I think we've shown him. Norman is his unfortunately needed computer skill if with another android, so he can't take over a ship by himself. Combine him with Luther Sloan, and you can take over a ship. And Raina Kapek, I think she's been shown. I have a list. I should just look at it. Oh, yeah, she's been shown. 38, 39. Let's show some Romulans. Running a little long here, but that's okay. Born. Saibo, she's interesting. We haven't shown her yet, but this is a universal OS female. AU and empathy, again, sort of a pass towards UI. This is the type of personnel that were included here. If you don't want to deal with creatures of duty and you want to play Romulans, so there's a lot of the androids are female, so you can pair them with your Romulans. She's another one, and she's skill gaps for the Romulans too. So interesting card, I think. This guy, Borix, universal Command Star, AU, OS, Youth, Honor, Exobiology. If in the neutral zone, he gains leadership and law. One of the few Romulans that isn't officer, so he's secured. He can't join the gay Romulan Navy. But this uses the tech that we came up with. I don't think it originated in the Gamma Quadrant, but or in Emissary, but conditional skills. That there was a bunch of feds that had if in Gamma Quadrant they get stuff. But this is, those are cool cards because they signpost for players what to do with your deck, right? Like if you want to maximize this guy's skills, I should use neutral zone missions. And there are a lot of cards in this set that push you in that direction, and this is just one more that sort of helps nudge you towards a deck that you can play natively. That's always a good thing to do with design. This is not the glamorous part of design, but it's stuff that we think about all the time. Like how can we signal to a player, especially an inexperienced player, what they should be doing to help reduce the analysis paralysis or like too many choices mentality. And this is the type of thing we think about.
And it lets you give a toy.
So Charlie
Sorry, go ahead, Alan.
Okay. And I always like these ones because it lets you give something to part of, like, this is Romulan OS toys without it just falling into every Romulan deck because it's another downloadable law security.
Yeah.
It lets us target the toy a bit.
Mm-hmm. And he's still usable in a generic Romulan deck. I mean, it's on brand for Romulans to be in the neutral zone no matter what era you're playing out of, except maybe 22, but even so. He's useful. He's useful in any Romulan deck if you need these skills, or a downloadable, a downloadable Gold Star with potentially 5 skills ain't nothing, and Integrity 8. That's good for Romulans. What were you saying, Brian?
I was just going to ask if gay Romulan Navy is an official term now. It's the first I've heard it, but it does seem on brand given the Creatures of Duty deck. So is that what we're going to be titling these things now?
That was the name for it very early. It was the lore. It was a gay Romulan army, which is what Neil called it, and I kept correcting him, saying it should be the gay Romulan Navy. They're on a ship. So, but yes, that was the joke we had internally when that card was being made and tested. It was like, it's the gay Romulan army, the gay Romulan Navy. It's all dudes doing their duty. I think that's most of the 47, 48, 49 are not shown. So let's show those real quick. 47 is Python. Just a universal Romulan skill dude. Officer, classification, medical, dip, smuggling, transporter skills. And then a nurse. You're going to see us dialing back somewhat on these keyword salad people. It does add a lot of complexity, and it does add a lot of cognitive load, and other people have pointed that out, and we're sort of coming around to doing it. It won't never happen, but we got keyword happy for a while, and I think post neutral zone or at least post Project Londo, that'll get slowed down a bit, just for the record. Another thing that we have to think about. Remoog. This guy special downloads reaction control thrusters if in the neutral zone, which is this was a roundabout but fun answer to Wake of the Borg. Because Wake of the Borg close on a location. This lets you evade that at least once. He names a planet. He names a 23rd century planet, so you can get him with the obelisk if it becomes.
Yeah, that's actually not terrible with the referee icon removing errata to Wake of the Borg, because even if someone's teching for it, they're gonna play it once, and then it's a matter of do they have retrieval cards if you dodge it. I mean, I think that actually makes that special download useful. So maybe you can put a facility in the neutral zone if you're worried about it.
Mm-hmm. I think it's an option, and it's good to have options. It's defense it's good counterplay. It's good strategic defense, which is something we want to do more of. So I'm really happy with this guy. And Tellman is the last Romulan, another just goofy guy, security, medical, anthro-bio. Another Romulan.
Helmets.
And those helmets. Oh, those helmets. Ooh, boy. Card I most want to see in foil is primary plasma weapon. Although for this one, I definitely would like it to be the old school foil where they can go in and mask what's shiny. They can make the center of that plasma ball and the silver all shiny. And that'd be really, really pretty. I'm really happy with this damage game text. This is new, interesting damage text. I'm excited to see how people react.
I like it.
We're always looking for.
Just to be clear, it's not cumulative, right? So if you get two of them on your ship, it's not -4. It's just you have to get rid of both of them to not have the -2. I didn't see cumulative on there, so
correct. It is
like
not
there's a
cumulative.
practical limit to the morale subtraction.
But two of them just makes it harder to get rid of the shaken morale. So, but I'm excited to see new damage type effects. This is us playing around in the space. This card is one of the reasons Breen Disruptor was on the watch list. Yeah, it's powerful and it's popular, but if no one is ever going to use other tactics because that one is so good by the numbers, that's something we need to know, because I think a Romulan OS deck is 100% going to use this just because attack bonus 6 if you're trying to hit a facility. That's pretty good. But any attribute drain deck can use this for the damage, especially if you're running damage dilemmas. So could be fun.
Hey, Charlie.
Yes.
I think that might be cumulative.
Well, I don't know the answer to that
Cumulative by
question.
default?
Just multiple copies of the same damage marker are cumulative, including reductions to attributes and hull integrity.
Well, shit, there you go.
Yeah, well, then that's even better. So.
You're almost making people super sad. Now, there's no stupid rule where if somebody reaches an attribute 0, they die or anything, right? Like, it's not like D&D where if one of your attributes hits 0, you're dead. It's just you don't contribute anything.
No, you can go.
Okay.
Yeah, you can go negative. You can't go negative. You go to 0. So. Well, I'm gonna wrap it up. We went a little long, and I still have to walk up to the store.
Hey,
so
Charlie, one last question before we wrap up, if you don't mind.
Sure.
What was the one card that didn't make it into the set that made you the most sad?
Well, there was a late cut that got Lieutenant Styles back in, but I thought that card had some issues, so I wasn't sad to see it go. I don't know.
Okay, I think that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, there was a Cardassian card in here that was. I love the concept. I didn't love the implementation, but I wasn't winning that battle until everybody started looking at it in detail, and somebody found like this is a problem, and then it sort of chained into this is actually a problem, and it had to go. One of the other design team members really liked it, and so was pushing for it to stick around, but. That card had to go, and then Lieutenant Styles got his job back. He was cut just because he wasn't stellar. He was fine. He was interesting. He was not amazing. But then when that card went away, we needed something to drop in late, and Styles came back. And Mr. Cardassian will come back another day, but not today.
So are there plans to return that guy at some point?
Oh yeah, the game.
I'm kind of like you. I was worried about the power level, but I like the concept.
Yeah, there's definitely plans to bring that guard back, if not exactly in that form, some sort of revised form. And the game, I have plans for the game to be around for a very long time. There's a thread going around where we're talking about scheduling stuff out through 2031. So And to paraphrase the Magic head designer, Trek is a hungry Tribble. It will constantly need new stuff and constantly need new cards. And just because something didn't make it here doesn't mean I don't have a schedule or a calendar for when that card comes back, but it was a fun card that can be fixed, so I would expect to see it back at some point.
Yeah, I sort of have the feeling, every time someone comes on the board and they're new people, and I don't get mad at them, I just answer the question. It's like when are you going to make, Picard stuff? When are you going to make Discovery stuff? When are you going to make, Abramsverse stuff? And we can't do any of that. I'm just like, we have literally hundreds of hours of material. Do we have like 1 or 0 cards from that episode on? Like there's a giant untapped landscape out there of material we can use still. Like don't worry about it. It's all good.
Yeah, it's there's a lot to make, and we'll be making these cards for a long time, hopefully. But anyway, I'm going to call it a day. The Neutral Zone comes out in 5 hours and 45 minutes. No, 4 hours and 45 minutes. Check it out.
Pairings go up tomorrow morning for the online regional. It's not too late. Get registered today.
There you go. Neutral Zone is legal 1 week from tomorrow, April 10th. Enjoy. Let's see what you build. Can't wait to hear what you're doing. I will be posting a poll for this. I'm going to keep doing these as long as most of the world can't go outside or can't go to the mall. So I will post a poll to find a good time to do this next week. And in the meantime, expand your power in the universe. Enjoy the Neutral Zone, and don't forget to wash your hands. Alan, Brian, thank you for joining me. Time to draw to end, I guess. Stop the stream.